Israel Adesanya has been doing and saying all the right things from the very beginning of his UFC career. I've personally always been a big fan of professional kickboxing, so he had my attention as soon as he came over to the promotion by default. But from his first walkout, the first fight, the first post-fight interview, and everything that's followed, he's been firing on all cylinders from the beginning. Anybody who's been paying attention knows that as soon as Adesanya got in front of the UFC audience, he was telling us how he already knows how the whole thing is going to unfold in terms of the success he's going to have, the effect it'll have on his life, as well as the way people view and treat him. How he's conducting himself today and everything that he's said in the past perfectly aligns with the reality of today. And that's a breath of fresh air in an era in the game when pro wrestling antics are being shoved down our throats left, right, and center. There are a lot of reasons why Izzy comes across as having things together mentally. But you have to think it's large in part due to the coaches and the team he has surrounding him. He has a deep-rooted connection to his team, and he's been able to maintain being grounded and humble despite the newfound fame and riches. A prime example of how grounded his coaches and his team keep him is that after Adesanya won the title, his coach Eugene Behrman said in an interview that there's actually other people in his gym that deserve to be in the UFC more than Izzy. And he talked about how Adesanya knows this as well. There's something so respectful about the vibe they give off. It's really cool to see. Being such a big fan of the sport himself, Adesanya recognizes how the fans of mixed martial arts think. He realizes the quality that fans appreciate above all else is being fearless and taking on the most dangerous fight available. He knows that the naysayers will always be looking for ammunition to use to try to discredit or downplay his achievements, and he realizes that he has full control over giving the doubters nothing to work with. One way to all but guarantee everyone's respect is to execute a rare action and call it the most hazardous and risky matchup there is available to you as a champion of the division. Something we don't often see these days in the sport, the champion calling for specific fights. But Adesanya has done that by first calling out Romero in his first title defense, and he continued that trend by immediately expressing his desire to fight Paulo Costa, setting an amazing example along the way for the younger generation. A negative byproduct of all the out-of-the-cage hoopla is that it detracts from the specialness of how incredible these fighters really are. I'm as intrigued by the character and the story of these athletes as much as anybody, but I sometimes believe that there's a bit too much focus on who these individuals are. I'm a fan of mixed martial arts for the elite-level technique and the fights itself. And anybody who's a fan of the sport on that same level has immense appreciation for Adesanya. Technically speaking, he's a wizard. Not just in the punches and the kicks, but the subtle things he does, like the feints, the fakes, and the facial expression he makes just to get inside his opponent's head. At certain times when competing, he gets into a certain zone and gets a look on his face that makes him one of the scariest individuals in the world. The guy has accomplished a lot in just 2 years in the UFC. He always rises to the occasion. He's not just a true martial artist, but a true performer as well. But not so fast. Here I am going on about Adesanya's ascension. Paulo Costa isn't exactly a muffin. He's a human wrecking machine that's fully capable of going in there on Saturday night and giving Adesanya serious trouble. He is a living steamroller that is as strong as he looks. He has tremendous power and a lot of aggression. He poses a danger to anybody at middleweight who agrees to step in there with him. And as high as I am in Adesanya, he is no different from anybody else in that regard. And if Costa manages to close that distance, Izzy is in as much trouble as any other fighter out there. Not to dwell on the negative and read too much into isolated incidences, but Adesanya got caught with 2 bombs early in his fight with Romero, though he wore them really well. He also got bum rushed and put in a very uncomfortable and compromised position in that fight against Romero. He does get hit, and he's fighting a hitter. But Izzy isn't buying into the hype, and neither am I. No disrespect to Costa and his opponents, but aside from his victory over Romero, the most notable win in his career would be a toss-up between a middleweight Johnny Hendricks, who probably never should have been in there to begin with, and Uriah Hall, who is dangerous as all hell, but a real hot and cold kind of fighter. Adesanya always comes prepared, and he'll be prepared on Saturday night to deal with Costa. UFC 253 is the next iteration of the Adesanya show, so pull up a seat and enjoy the performance.